Hello, and welcome to another Dear Congregation, my weekly V-letter from my members of the Fairfax Lutheran Parish. Some thoughts for the week. And I'll begin with 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7. And Paul writes, "We have this treasure in jars of clay, to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us." Now, let me preset this up. This intent of my letter today isn't to make you feel sorry for me. I have chosen the full-time vocational pastoral ministry, and it's not about getting you to do anything differently. I write this out of a sincere desire that you could see and know the heart of your pastor and love him maybe in greater ways. There are so many things people don't know about what it takes to be a pastor and how we handle our frustrations along with our joys about being your pastor. And what I want to share are 14 areas of pastoral ministry and how it affects us. In December's newsletter, I have another list of things that pastors wish their flock understood. So please check it out. I don't nonchalantly write my articles. There is a purpose behind each, and that is to help you grow, help you learn what it means to be the church. So here we go. Number one, ministry is lonely. There are a few people who understand the weight of leading in ministry. And sometimes there is a temptation on our part to quit. We get frustrated like you do on the job. Mondays can be the worst after a long weekend. And our fellow pastors are finding these feelings within themselves. And so to take it to them is kind of difficult. They are dealing with their own situation. Ministry is often all we know. Now, I know I come from a retail background and a music background. I have other things, but at this point in my life, ministry is all that I know. Many pastors uproot their families for the sake of a church position. Many move into a new town, new church, new home, not knowing a soul. Holidays can be very lonely. I have been in, I think, something in the 8 different parishes and congregations in 10 years. It's been very difficult. Uproot yourself and your family and move again. So it is a difficult situation. And it's not always easy. And so that kind of makes things a little difficult. Now, sometimes we lose sight of the fact that we are supposed to serve Jesus and not the church. Well, the church is part of that. But keeping everyone happy is impossible. Churches are filled with people with varying opinions on everything. And we often get sidetracked by working to keep people of influence happy. The problem is that keeping people happy shouldn't be our focus. Sometimes there are people who assume self-imposed power to get what they want. Our ministry is not about one person individually. It is about all of you. And my concern is for all of you. And in that vein of thought, it's tough not to take things personally. Criticism stings sometimes, and I try to listen to it, but there are times that it really digs into me. Sometimes it's deserved, and sometimes it's not. And personal preference is not the same thing as constructive criticism. We feel bad and if and when we let you down. So that gets to be hard. The pressure to perform weekly is a heavy weight. Sunday comes and we're hoping to have a message relatable to you. As a leader, it leaves us vulnerable and exhausted. We worry that at some point we will run out of fresh sermons and we will be sent packing. It's exhausting to always feel this way, to feel this often self-inflicted drive to one-up ourselves in everything we do. Not always possible. We often find our value in our success as a pastor. It's all we know. We're vulnerable like you are, not really knowing ourselves apart from what we do. But to remind ourselves, pastoring is what I do, not necessarily who I am. It doesn't reduce what I do, but it sometimes causes us to look at ourselves and saying, am I a success? We measure success like the rest of the world in numbers. Yeah, we get the whole number thing. Church isn't about the number thing. We wish the numbers didn't matter, but they do. Well, we know they matter to you. We also know that attendance numbers are used as a gauge as to how well are you doing as a leader. And that might be partially true, but I wonder how much of the numbers are about all of us as the welcomers and inviters of the church. Are we doing our job to welcome all? Well, we also feel a great deal of competition. We will hear about pastors who have huge numbers of people in their churches, who have huge numbers of people in worship. And we feel like sometimes we've just missed the boat. And if our ministry is currently plateaued or in decline, it's defeating knowing that experts are succeeding where we are not. And I must admit, sometimes I'm jealous of you. I sometimes wish I could just be a regular Joe, to have true, authentic friendships. Stay home on a weekend because we haven't seen our families or just plain tired. And after working 5 to 6 days of ministry, tired is a big affliction. And I know many of you work long days. You know what I'm talking about. Some days we just would like to stop, but we can't because ministry is never ending, 24/7, 365. And when we are at home, it doesn't end. We're thinking about you. Our next sermon, how we're going to lead through a situation that appears very daunting. Type A pastors take this one to a different level. And not only do we suffer, but sometimes our families pay the price for our call. I've had churches say, well, we're not hiring your spouse, we're hiring you. Well, first off, you do not hire me, you call me to fulfill a ministry, to lift up the congregation, to participate in ministry. So the spouse thing, well, this is often a statement. We're not hiring your spouse. There are many within a church who have expectations for our spouses or our kids. We expect spouses to be in every group in church, to quilt, to be part of, in our case, welcome. And they expect the kids to be right next to us in church. And they expect the kids to be perfect. And I could tell you of a lot of stories of pastors' kids, PKs, who weren't always perfect, but they loved the Lord. And that can make a lot of difference. but there are many unspoken expectations. And these expectations on the families aren't fair. You know, another jolting, maybe a jolting idea for you is we struggle with our faith. Just like you, we can doubt. We wonder, what if we've gotten it all wrong? What if what I said last Sunday wasn't exactly perfect or right? We struggle to make time to be in the Word for our own development, apart from the prep work for sermons or Bible studies. So we struggle, and we still are growing like you are in Christ. You know, how about this? We carry your hurts. Now, you think that, oh, they're detached. But we carry your hurts, maybe far more than you probably know or realize. And this is especially true when you lose a loved one or a friend in death. We understand because we've experienced some of those same things. We know what you're feeling. But please understand, you are deeply loved by us. We wear your hurts and your grief when you do. That's just a matter of fact. From this 14th one, our desire, our deepest desire, is that you would surrender more to Jesus. To watch you grow is our greatest joy and can sustain us for months at a time. We genuinely love you. I genuinely love you. And that sometimes is enough to keep me going. But another thing that keeps me going is that we understand that all of us are clay pots. I'm a clay pot like you are. And we all carry this treasure of the gospel within us. And as it is God's gospel, we know any power or strength we display to share that gospel is God's power and God's strength. So I wanted to share that with you today. Now, last week we talked about what is your place in the church. And I definitely believe that still. But understand where I come from, where my position is. My desire is to see you grow in faith. And sometimes I do a wonderful job and sometimes I do a lousy job. But believe me, I do the job I do because I love you. Well, I'm going to end here. So God bless you in your life of faith, in your journey. And P.S., don't forget to read your December newsletter. I and Carol put a lot of time, thought, and effort into creating and constructing it for you and with you in mind. So God's blessings as you continue your walk of faith.